podcast is intended for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed are those of the panelists and do not reflect in any way those of the podcast partners, sponsors, or affiliates. Enjoy.
You need that fear.
All I'm trying to do is make a stand for something that I truly believe is right. I truly believe is right. I want to be like you. Come on, man. I'm the face of boxing. I'm the cash cow. I hold the record with you.
My drop, I know my drop, I know my situation. I don't want to fight. That's my food. But it's going to be very difficult for both of us.
BoxingVoice.com.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another spontaneous edition of the Boxing Voice Radio. I'm your host, Nestor Gibbs. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at NestGTO, hashtag TBV Podcast. We are back with another breaking news episode for you, spontaneous. Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios averages 516,000, but peaked at about 558,000 viewers on Showtime. So no one wants to see a cherry, I guess. Is Danny still the star that he thought he was post-fight Saturday night after the Brandon Rios knockout? You know, he said, I don't have a belt, but I do numbers. Those numbers went down significantly. We're going to give you all the details. We'll bring in all the numbers for a bunch of relevant fights that are comparable to this one. I'm going to head on out to the Golden State to my co-host, Matthew, the Hipster Hunter.
ThaBoxingVoice production.
This is a beautiful performance against a very tough guy in Michael Johnson. How you feel about it?
Fuck that. Conor McGregor.
BoxingVoice.com.
You know me, Larry. From a wicked entrance, from a flip over the rope to a knockout. When the main thing is, I just hope the guy, I wish.
BoxingVoice.com.
Yes, the Hipsters here. Haters beware. And I know Danny Garcia does get a lot of hate from a lot of our callers, a lot of our listeners. And these viewerships and these viewers from Showtime are definitely not going to help his situation, definitely not going to help him out. At best, let's be honest here, these are mediocre numbers. These are numbers that are not really impressive, to say the least. Again, I have done a lot of research as to other comparable numbers on Showtime, specifically amongst other welterweights. So we're going to check them out and sort of get a gauge and a comparison and see, are these numbers mediocre? Are these bad? Are these good? Are these decent? Are these average? You know, there's tons of things we can talk about from these numbers, of course. And of course, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And of course, share the show, tell a friend, and it should be fun. Can we chop it up with you, Ness, and the callers? Should be fun.
Yeah, I think you should go first just to kind of put everything into perspective. So this way we'll have some numbers to gauge and use as a barometer before we start throwing names and just assumptions around.
Do you want me to go through my research list of all these?
Well, yeah, I think that it's fair to give the listeners some comparable numbers. I don't know. Sean Porter is another significantly known welterweight in the division. He's also the mandatory for the fight that Danny Garcia wants with Keith one-time Thurman. Maybe you could start with him. Let us know what sort of numbers he's done in the past on Showtime.
Sean Porter versus Andre Berto did the average of 468,000 viewers. Sean Porter versus Kell Brook did 661,000 viewers. Sean Porter versus Devin Alexander, which was the co-main event to Paulie Malignaggi and Zab Judah. That fight, the co-main event, their fight specifically, did an average of 515,000 viewers. The main event overall did an average of 700 and I believe 40,000 viewers. Those are the few fights that I got from Sean Porter on Showtime to sort of gauge interest. Oh, sorry. And Sean Porter versus Paulie Malignaggi did 897,000 viewers, which definitely was a huge jump up from his sort of average. But Sean Porter definitely, I would say, the one that's lacking the most star power out of all the welterweights on this list and the welterweights that we commonly talk about with Danny Garcia. And you can see that even he averaged, around this, a little bit above this. And he had a couple peaks that definitely hit more than, let's say, this average or this number that Danny Garcia hit with Brandon Rios. A couple other numbers for Danny Garcia, just so you get another gauge of Danny Garcia's numbers. Danny Garcia versus Mauricio Herrera did 972,000 viewers average. Danny Garcia versus Rod Salka. Yes, the dreaded Rod Salka averaged 612,000 viewers. So this was a dip.
Wait. So essentially, Garcia versus Salka did better than Rios? Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying. That is what the numbers say.
So I guess the other half of the title doesn't count. It's not pretty much no one wants to see a cherry. It depends on the cherry.
Maybe. I mean, of course, we always had to put these fights into context. I mean, Rod Salka was the fight coming off the Lucas Matisse fight, from what I remember. Correct me on that, Ness. That was, to me, peak Danny Garcia was the Matisse fight. That was the peak stardom, peak exposure for him. Was
after Herrera, which was which was also after Lucas Matisse.
So I would say that Matisse was peak. Then you obviously see that residual with Mauricio Herrera. And yes, you can probably attest to this more at the time in the context. Nobody thought Mauricio Herrera was going to win. Like nobody thought. Everyone thought Herrera was a tune-up at that point, heading into that fight. And he did almost 1 million viewers on average for that. Then he dropped even more in terms of competition for Rod Salka, and still did over 600,000 viewers on average. Maybe there's something to that the level of competition dropped along with the viewership. I don't know really how much you want to dig into that and go deep into that, but yes, I mean, according to the numbers and what we have in front of us from Nielsen's Media Research Group, Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios did significantly less than even Danny Garcia versus Rod Salka, almost 100,000 less.
So what do you think this means? I mean, because for Salka to have better numbers than Rios, it doesn't make sense where you seen the crowd, you seen the tickets were sold, the venue was packed. Danny got booed. Rios brought fans.
I mean, let's be honest here, Ness. There didn't seem to be a bunch of hype leading into the fight. Like, there wasn't buzz on fight week. I never felt that during the week. Maybe the fight watching it was fun for you, but I never felt a buzz during fight week at all. And maybe that led into it. I'm not going to say a lack of promotion, because I don't think that's what it is. I think there was just a lack of interest for this fight, a lack of general animosity between these two. These two guys, actually seem to like each other. I was at the press conference, at one of the press conferences for this fight. It didn't seem to have hype around it. There wasn't this hype in the air. It didn't seem like a big fight. This is Danny Garcia's first fight back from a loss, his first loss. It's been a year away. Maybe that had to play into it. Maybe we just sort of, not we, the fans, the general fans, sort of forgot about Danny in a way. He's out of the rotation. Now it's Earl Spence. Now it's Terrence Crawford in the division. Danny's no longer a hot commodity in this division potentially, at least in the fans' eyes.
Which brings me to a comment from Jose E. Perez that says all these numbers mean is that people wanted to see Danny lose more when he was undefeated. Now that he already lost, a lot of haters won't need to tune in. That comes from Jose E. Perez. And another one from Nia Smothers says Spence did 695 and y'all said he wasn't a star. So Danny not a star anymore, right, TBV? Let y'all tell it.
These definitely aren't.
I think that's exactly what we're saying. I mean, check out the title. No one wants to see a cherry. We're not saying he isn't a star, but obviously dance partners matter. On the case of Earl Spence, he had a significantly more capable dance partner.
And also, to correct the commenter,
Matt, don't you have the numbers for Danny versus Peterson?
For Danny versus Peterson? No, Danny versus
Probably not, because it was regular TV, not Showtime.
on NBC, and that did like 2 million plus viewers. But Earl Spence versus Peterson was not 691. That was the peak. The average was 637,000 viewers. And to answer, I think, Jose Perez and what he addressed to about the haters and having a loss, we have a direct comparison to that guy, the guy that everyone hates, everyone wants to see lose, and Adrian Broner. And that guy has consistently done great numbers. Broner versus Mike Garcia, 881,000 viewers. Broner versus 779,000 viewers. Broner versus Taylor, 852,000 viewers. Broner versus Paulie, 890,000 viewers. People do not care if you lose, as long as you are a star. Danny may not be that. To answer, the haters in the chat that think that we're not comparing Danny to Earl, or that we're not doing an adequate job being consistent, that's exactly what we're doing. Danny may not be that level of a star that he thinks he is, where he can sell rip-off Gucci products with his initials on it and be a star. Maybe he's not that level yet.
Well, a comment from the chat. Sergio Rodriguez says DSG no longer a hot commodity, but every welterweight, Matisse, Alexander, Ortiz, Spence, Porter, Vargas, all calling him out and want to fight him. He does have a point. How are you not a star if that's about 7 welterweights that have mentioned your name? And directly, because, we know he's top 3 in the division, whether that be skill, popularity, or numbers.
Or establishment, just being in the division longest and being at the top longest. Danny Garcia is definitely not a hot commodity. There's a reason everyone's calling him out, because everyone senses a wounded animal right now. Everyone senses blood in the water with Danny Garcia. That's what that is. And he still represents a $2 million, $3 million paycheck. Anyone at the top of this division, the glamour division of boxing, which it's been for the last 30, 40 years, yeah, you're going to make a lot of money fighting in the top 5. And Danny Garcia is still that. But he is definitely not the hot commodity right now. Earl Spence has taken that. You can even argue that even Keith Thurman is still more relevant, being injured and just talking in the media the way he is.
But Matt, isn't that you just looking at the glass half empty? And Danny Garcia fans can say he did an average of 516, peaked at 585, which he carried it all on his back. Rios was washed up. He's been done. The world watched him quit versus Pacquiao and then lose versus Bradley. So that's why not many tuned in. And this is all of Danny's viewership.
Well,
and that's why they got to 500,000.
No, this is a hardcore viewership. James Zagale versus Badu Jack does 485,000 viewerships, which is just barely below this. That's a hardcore line. Obviously, there was no casual interest for this fight. And you can look at other fights from Danny that we just mentioned that did better viewers with even more subpar competition. You can argue Mauricio Herrera and Rod Salka are worse fighters or less established or less credible than a Brandon Rios. And they still did significantly more viewership than Brandon Rios. So whatever you want to say for this fight, it was not a hot commodity. This event was not a buzzing event. This was not in any way, shape, or form for the casuals, because the viewership shows that it was for a hardcore audience.
And where are you getting these numbers from? How do we know this is not some malicious attempt to tear down the star notoriety of Danny Garcia?
These are all from either Boxing Scene, ESPN, Bad Left Hook, all reputable sites. If somebody on social media wants me to deliver a direct source for each individual fucking viewership, I can do that. I have over 20 right here. We have Amir Khan, Earl Spence, Adrian Broner. We have tons of stuff to get to. Mayweather versus Andre Berto, the replay on Showtime, did more than fucking Danny Garcia versus Brandon Rios, which was a live fight. Like, come on, a replay of a fight.
I think this just shows that you could only game the system for so long. You need a live body on the other end of the street. I think if this were Porter, we'd be looking at 1.5 million.
I completely agree. Completely agree. And there's a reason why Spence Peterson numbers were a little bit better than this, because it was seen that Lamont Peterson was a top 7 welterweight. Nobody thought Brandon Rios was a top 10 welterweight going into this fight. Nobody. I mean, top 15. So it's all about perception, of course. I mean, yes, if you want to say that we should not, ban or diss Danny Garcia for forever right now. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not saying he can't be a hot commodity or he can't become a star for another fight or another event. But right now, for this fight and this moment in time, not a hot commodity, not a star. The numbers show that.
Matt, they're saying that for Spence, people were quick to note that there was some other sports on or UFC on, but no one's saying that it was the All-Star Weekend for Danny's fight.
Yeah, but the All-Star Weekend didn't do that great numbers anyways. I mean, the Celebrity Game only did like 1.6 million viewers, I believe. That's not that much. I mean, again, if you are a star, if you are a drawing power, people will tune in regardless of what is on. Obviously, people were not invested into this fight. That's why they did not tune in.
Nia Smother says, mark my words, Ness. Thurman versus Danny will be low also. Thurman versus Porter will be low also. Nobody wants to see those fights, but the people involved. That's why views are low.
I highly disagree with that. I think 3 to 5 million viewers on NBC or CBS is pretty great viewership. It's not fantastic. There's definitely been better, but that's really good. I don't know why there's hate for that.
If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. You could do so in the future, present, past. You could catch it on the playback, hit it over there. Really doesn't matter. If you're listening to this on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, drop us a 5-star review. Let the world know this is your best and favorite boxing podcast. Matt, I think it's about that time we go out to the calls. You can join us and join the conversation absolutely free, calling anywhere in the world. Absolutely free by adding Nestor Gibbs. That's NESTORGIBBS on Skype. We must be friends in order to be part of the conversation. You could also call in number 1-425-569-5241. Matt, we're going to go to the sponsors and out to these callers.
These calls are brought to you by El Camino Electrical Services, experts in electric vehicle charging stations. For consultations and turnkey installation, visit us at elcaminoelectricalservices.com.
We're going out to Joey in Indiana. Joey, talk to me.
Hey, what's going on, Ness? Hey, a few things. Going back, what I think affected the ratings. For one, not only the All-Star, the slam dunk contest. I know Matt said the Celebrity Game, but that was on Friday. But the dunk contest, and another factor in this is the Black Panther movie. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but that's the #1 grossing movie in America, and so many people went out, and I think that slightly affected it too. And then number 3, just I keep saying this, the start time of the fights. I mean, starting at 10 o'clock Eastern time and then overlapping from the Fox card, that's a lot of boxing to watch. You're talking about taking up 5 hours of your evening. So I think, that could just affect. But those are just the 2 things that I really think. Shit.
Joey, as always, brother, thank you for calling in. Let me get to some other callers.
No problem.
We're going out to Jay in Orlando. Talk to me.
Nothing much. I think most of Danny's fights moving forward, I could see his fights being on Channel 2, or depending how PBC work it out. I think the only reason why that fight was on Showtime is because it was against Brandon Rios. Because I bet you if he fights Porter or Thurman, the shit will be on Channel 2. What does that mean about Danny's career? I mean, he's still a draw. I don't think we can put a cap on him because of these numbers. I don't know, man. I don't want to hold up the line, man, but I don't like people kind of, shitting on the numbers, man. I'm not going to sit here and say All-Star Weekend. I don't think that matters. I think it's what the opponent and the other side of the ring is what matters at the end of the day. That's my call.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for calling in. We're going to Ernest in Huntsville, Alabama. Talk to us.
Hey, guys, I got one question. If CBS and Showtime are the same company, why don't they put some of the fights on CBS?
I think it has to do with budget.
Yeah, budget. scheduling as well. Because remember, CBS CBS has a harsher schedule or a tougher schedule compared to each other sports.
But they just stopped last year because Danny and Keith were on CBS last year.
Yeah, they can go in there every once in a while, but to have a complete boxing schedule on CBS, they can't do that. There's not enough room on the schedule.
Well, I'm not speaking of just complete. I'm just I guess I'm just saying if you're gonna have Alexander on Fox, which is regular TV, why you just can't put the main boys on regular TV every now and then? I'm not speaking of every time. Every now and then. I mean, when was the last time we actually had a Keith Danny kind of fight since Keith Danny on regular TV?
Probably Keith and Danny. Deontay Wilder was supposed to be on Fox, but I think that got changed at some point.
He was on Fox in February of 2017. That was the last time. But that's what I'm saying. It's been over a year since we had a main event kind of fight on regular TV, and that may help.
I think it's because Showtime is offering more money than these other networks. Remember, Fox is not connected to Showtime. So Showtime is offering up X amount of dollars for an event, and Fox is willing to offer up Y amount. Y amount is less than X, so they're going to take X.
But Showtime and CBS are the same company.
But you brought up Fox. Victor Ortiz and Devin Alexander was on Fox. Those networks have no relationship. Those are completely separate deals.
Okay, but Danny and Keith last year, that's a CBC fight.
Yes.
That's a Showtime/CBS fight.
Yes. But I think CBS and their parent company, which I think is Comcast, they would rather beef up.
No. CBS is the parent company. CBS is the parent company of Showtime.
Yeah, but I believe CBS is
3 years ago. They're their own publicly traded company.
Yes, but other publicly traded companies can own other publicly traded companies.
No. I'm a finance stock market guy. I'll tell you, CBS is its own publicly traded company. They're not owned by anybody else but CBS.
Okay. I believe CBS does not have the schedule or the budget to put it on there. Showtime has the budget and the schedule. That's what it really boils down to. Showtime does not have a robust original programming system like HBO does. They do not have the original shows like HBO does. So they need to beef up content with boxing content. CBS does not have that room. They have tons of content.
Okay. All right.
Ernest, thanks for calling in, brother.
got.
Thanks for calling in. Matt, final thoughts on Danny Garcia and Brandon Rios coming in at a 516,000 viewership average. Final thoughts.
I agree with Ernest that the idea that you put Victor Ortiz, Devin Alexander on Fox or CBS or whatever network that you put these fights on now in the last 12 months, and you put bigger names behind Showtime makes little sense to me in long-term strategy. Again, I don't know the finances of it. It's probably just because of the money. Showtime's offering more money than what these other networks are, whether it be ESPN, whether it be Fox, NBC, and CBS is wanting the boxing content to be on Showtime. They don't want it to be on their network, it seems, unless it's very big fights that can reach a 5 million viewership, like a Thurman Garcia. Again, I don't know what the overall strategy is of PBC and Al Heyman. That's always been a question mark for them. If they had a more cohesive strategy with networking in terms of like what networks they put on which fight and which caliber of fights, and there was more of a standard that we as the fans knew about, I think you would see a more consistent viewership rate for both Showtime, their CBS fights, and their Fox fights. I am Matt the Hipster. You can find me at Mixed Combat News on Twitter, Matt Hunter TBV on Instagram, MMA Podcast, Mixed Combat Radios on Patreon, SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, etc. And remember, Deontay Wilder, one champion, one name, one face. Episode 1 comes out on Friday. Cannot wait. Peace.
Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button in future, present, past. Drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Helps with the visibility of the show. Visit us on patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice for more behind-the-scenes footage on Camp Life Deontay Wilder, a bunch of extras there, as well as Border Wars episodes, Standing 8 Count, Overtime, and just a whole bunch more. Head on over there and definitely become a Patreon. My name is Nestor Gibbs. Find me on Instagram and Twitter at NestGTO. Peace.